Alright, let's clear this up right away. Domino's Pizza was not created by a homeless guy. But the truth is not much less dramatic. The man behind the empire, Tom Monaghan, was broke, struggling, and at one point, so financially wrecked that he might as well have been living in his pizza shop. But how did a guy with barely a penny to his name build one of the most successful pizza chains in history? How did a tiny, failing pizza shop turn into a multi-billion-dollar empire? And what does all this have to do with monks, lawsuits, and the Detroit Tigers? Strap in because this is one of the wildest business stories out there. But before that, like and subscribe for more wild rides through foodie fun. Tom Monaghan's life wasn't exactly set up for success. Born in 1937, he lost his father when he was just 4 years old. His mother, struggling to support him and his brother, sent them to a Catholic orphanage run by nuns. And if you think that sounds like something out of a movie where kids get smacked with rulers, you're not far off. It wasn't exactly an easy childhood. The nuns were strict, the food was, let's just say, not Domino's level quality, and Tom had to grow up fast. But the one thing he did get from that place was discipline, and believe it or not, a love for architecture. But at 11, Tom decided he wanted to become a priest. So he joined a seminary school. That lasted exactly 1 day. Turns out waking up at 4 a.m. for prayer wasn't his idea of a good time. Instead, he bounced around foster homes and got into his fair share of trouble. By his teen years, Tom was basically a walking financial disaster. He wasn't great at keeping jobs, wasn't great at school, and definitely wasn't great at staying out of trouble. Eventually, he enlisted in the Marines, which, let's be real, is one way to guarantee food and shelter when you're broke. And while he didn't exactly fall in love with military life, he did learn how to hustle. After his service, he enrolled in college. But shockingly, he was constantly broke. He had no clue what he wanted to do with his life. That's when fate stepped in the form of a tiny, failing pizza shop in Ypsilanti, Michigan. In 1960, Tom and his brother James scraped together $500 as a down payment to buy a struggling pizza joint called Domino's. It was small, barely making any money, and the kind of place that smelled like melted cheese and financial ruin. But Tom saw potential. The plan was simple. Tom would run the shop while James kept his job as a mailman to provide some stability. Except that lasted about 8 months before James had enough. He wanted out. Now, Tom could have just let the business die. Instead, he doubled down. He bought his brother's share, but not with money. Oh no, he didn't give him any of that. Instead, he gave James the shop's only delivery car, a beat-up Volkswagen Beetle. And just like that, Tom was running the whole operation alone. And that is when the real struggle began. Tom worked 100-hour work weeks, basically living in the shop because rent was a luxury he couldn't afford. He made the dough, taught the pizzas, delivered them, handled customer complaints, and probably even mopped up his own tears in the back. If he had a dog, even the dog would have been like, dude, you need to get your life together. But quitting wasn't an option. He started making tiny changes like refining the dough recipe, improving the delivery system, and speeding up service. The pizzas weren't gourmet, but they were hot and fast. That was enough to keep customers coming back. Unfortunately, what also came back was his debt. Tom was constantly borrowing money, juggling bills, and at one point was so deep in debt that he almost lost the business. But just when things seemed completely hopeless, a small break came his way. A local college town discovered his shop. Turns out broke college kids love cheap pizza. His sales started growing. Slowly, but growing. And that's when Tom realized he wasn't in the pizza business. He was in the delivery business. If you think that's interesting, then don't forget to hit thumbs up. By 1965, Tom had a crazy idea. He wanted to expand, open more stores, and make things bigger. One problem was that the original owner of Domino's, the guy he bought it from, refused to let him use the name for a chain. So now Tom had a pizza shop he couldn't even brand. Most people would have panicked. But Tom did what any scrappy business owner would do. He started brainstorming names. One of his delivery drivers casually suggested Domino's. Tom liked it because it was catchy, easy to remember, and most importantly, available. And just like that, a billion-dollar brand was born. Now, if you're wondering why Domino's, it wasn't random. Tom had a vision that every new store would add a domino tile to the logo. The first store had 1 dot, the second had 2, and so on. Cute idea, right? Yeah, until Domino's started growing so fast that the logo would have needed way too many dots. He stopped at 3 and called it a day. But just because the business was growing didn't mean the struggles were over. Tom still had a massive debt hanging over him. His stores were profitable, but expansion was expensive. He needed a game changer. That's when he had his biggest idea yet, one that would make Domino's a household name and forever change the pizza industry. By the late 1960s, Tom Monaghan had a solid pizza business, but solid wasn't enough. He wanted to do something no one else was doing: turn pizza into a science. His goal wasn't just to make good pizza, it was to make pizza fast. Enter the 30-minute delivery guarantee, which was the idea that would turn Domino's into a household name. Back then, pizza delivery was a total mess. Orders took forever, pizzas showed up lukewarm, and delivery drivers were basically lost wanderers trying to find the address without GPS because, this was the Stone Age of delivery, the 1970s. Tom wanted to change that. He streamlined operations, simplified the menu, and created a highly efficient system that allowed Domino's to pump out pizzas faster than anyone else. And then came the biggest, boldest promise in pizza history. Your pizza will arrive in 30 minutes or less, or it's free. That's right, if the driver showed up 1 minute late, your pizza was on the house. Now, let's pause for a second. Imagine you're a broke college student in the 80s sitting around in your dorm room. What are you going to do? You're going to order a Domino's pizza, set a stopwatch, and pray the driver gets stuck at a red light so you get free food. And people loved it. Orders skyrocketed, and suddenly Domino's wasn't just another pizza place. It was the fastest pizza place. Other chains couldn't keep up, but here's the thing about giving your employees an impossible deadline. Sometimes they take it a little too seriously. The 30-minute guarantee basically turned Domino's delivery drivers into NASCAR racers. They were flooring it through intersections, weaving through traffic like stunt drivers, and doing whatever it took to beat the clock. And then came the lawsuits. After multiple accidents and even a few fatalities, Domino's got hit with major legal trouble. By the 1990s, the lawsuits piled up, and the 30-minute guarantee was officially dead. But you know what wasn't dead? The Domino's brand. By then, Tom had already turned his little pizza company into a global empire. However, he didn't just build a pizza empire, he also bought a baseball team. In 1983, flush with Domino's cash, Monaghan bought the Detroit Tigers for $53 million because he was a lifelong fan. And honestly, when you're a pizza billionaire, why not? But by 1992, Monaghan's priorities had shifted, so he sold the Tigers for $85 million to Mike Ilitch, the founder of Little Caesars Pizza. Yep, one pizza mogul handed the team off to another. And then in 1998, the unthinkable happened. Tom sold his entire stake in Domino's for a jaw-dropping $1 billion. You'd think he'd retire on a yacht, sipping champagne, right? Nope. Tom gave up the billionaire lifestyle to focus on his Catholic faith. He started funding charities, building Catholic schools, and even tried to create an entire religious town. People thought he was nuts, but Tom, he was done with pizza. His new mission was giving back. Meanwhile, Domino's was thriving, until people realized their pizza kinda sucked. By the early 2000s, customers were roasting them, saying the crust tasted like cardboard and the sauce was basically ketchup. Sales plummeted and Domino's was on life support. Then, in a shocking move, they owned up to it. In 2009, Domino's publicly admitted its pizza was terrible, then revamped everything. There was new sauce, better cheese, fresher crust. They bet their entire brand on fixing their food, and it worked. By 2018, Domino's was outselling Pizza Hut. They embraced technology, launched a pizza tracking app, and expanded their menu. Today, Domino's is still one of the biggest pizza brands on the planet, all because a broke Marine took a $500 gamble on a tiny pizza shop. But none of it would exist without Tom Monaghan, the orphan who risked everything on a tiny pizza shop and turned it into an empire. His story is proof that you don't need to be rich, famous, or have the perfect background to build something incredible. Sometimes all it takes is $500, an old Volkswagen, and a sheer refusal to quit. What do you think about that? Let us know in the comments below. If you found that interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stuff. Thanks for watching.